was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom! Boom! I hear and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Hello, I'm Penny St., and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. Today we'll be speaking with Hadas Gottlieb, the principal at the Eastern Mediterranean International School in Israel, or EMIS. In part 2, we'll speak with the students. EMIS brings together Israeli Jews and Arabs, Palestinians, and international high school students from across national and cultural divides for a life-changing educational experience. As adults looking at Middle East peace negotiations, we know we already screwed it up and are leaving it to the next generation, hopefully, to finally fix it. At Peace with Penny, we always find it inspirational when peace organizations work with those who probably will be burdened to solve this dilemma. Aren't you glad to know there is a high school in Israel who's committed to helping prepare all sides for the difficult task by bringing them together as young people, introducing them to each other and to the issues to begin hashing out potential solutions? A nonprofit founded in 2014, EMIS is home to 190 students. 20% are Israeli Jews and Arabs, 20% come from Arab and Muslim nations, and 60% hail from 40 other countries around the world. Each brings their own identity and perspective, and together they weave a colorful tapestry that welcomes difference while finding common ground. Students live and learn together for 2 years in a vibrant community that celebrates pluralism, nurtures entrepreneurship, and fosters outstanding academic skills. EMIS offers students several academic tracks to pave their way to the best of higher education. Their academic curriculum follows the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. The social and educational EMIS experience teaches diversity, dialogue, and the value of peace. EMIS also teaches respect for the environment and promotes sustainability as a way of life. Hearing how the younger generation approach one another and the issues should be enlightening. Hadas Gottlieb has been the principal and director at EMIS since 2020. She has a Master of Public Policy from Tel Aviv University and is currently working on receiving her MA in Educational Policy with a specialty in Democratic Education from there as well. She has a teaching certificate from Tel Aviv University and a BA with honors in law and business management with a specialty in information technology. Hadas has taught for over 20 years and also worked at the Knesset as a parliamentary aide to MK Absalom Villan of the Meretz Party and at the Ministry of Justice District Attorney's Office. So let's begin. Welcome, Hadas.
Thank you.
How would you describe EMIS?
Well, after your introduction, it will be a little hard, but I think that I can say that it's actually some kind of an island, you might say, or a very unique place in Israel, which is, as you know and experience yourself, very hard country sometimes to live at. So will be my first description of EMIS, if I would say, like a small place that we try to keep isolated sometimes in order for us to have the things that we want to do there, but then we open it all the time to the world. So yeah.
So it's a boarding school. Can you talk about what that really means? Because a lot of people here just aren't familiar. We, don't necessarily go to boarding schools, although, when you have a teenager at home, it's quite tempting to send them somewhere.
Sometimes. Yeah, but then you want to send them to a military boarding school, not just a boarding school. Yeah, so the concept of this school is that you have students from all around the world that are coming for experience of 2 or 3 years. It depends on the track that they are taking. They are living boarding life, which means that they are here 24/7 actually. It's not a closed boarding school, which means that they can go out if they want to. They can do things outside of schools, but they need, of course, permission, like you would have at home with your parent, with your children or children with their parents. We provide them, of course, the accommodation. They are 4 students in room, boys separately and girls separately, in order to maintain it more comfortable for them. And so there are 4 students in a room. They have their own bed, their own closet, and they place a small desk to study at, but it's a relatively small place.
How did they end up in the room? Who books them into the room?
At first, when they're arriving, we divide them. The school divide them. They divided by nationality most of the time, which means that we try to put 1 Israeli, 1 Palestinian, and international students in the room. Not always it will be the case.
Oh, so you mix it. You mix it up.
Yeah, and we try not to put like all the Israelis in one room,
right,
and all the Vietnamese in one room. We try to spread them around in order for them to know each other better. This is the best way to know each other. They're sleeping together, they're eating together, arguing, reconciling, coexist together.
So the kids are coming from where?
So the kids are coming, as you said in your intro, the kids are coming from either they're Israelis or we have a lot of Palestinian students. This is the school mission, so we try to reach a lot. But we have students from all around the world. We have Vietnamese students, Chinese, from Laos, Cambodia, Burma, South America, Brazil, I don't know, Peru, you name it, Africa, Kenya, South Africa. I interviewed yesterday students from Malawi. Maybe she will come next year. Europe.
But the main language on campus is English?
English, always English. We communicate in English. Of course, the students talking with their native language with themselves when they want to talk. A lot of Hebrew you will hear at campus, because most of our staff members know some level of Hebrew. A lot of them are immigrants, made Aliyah in the past, but not all of them. Some of them are just internationals, and some Israelis like me, are born and raised Israelis.
And excuse me, made Aliyah means moved to Israel.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. That's, you know.
So you will hear a lot of Hebrew and some Arabic. But the main language is English, and we communicate only in English. I won't send a mail to the students in any other language than English, unless I'm sending something to an Israeli student, so I will use Hebrew, but not even most of the time.
Are there Jewish students among the international students as well?
Yes, yes.
About what percentage of your student population is Jewish, would you say?
Well, much more than in the general population that you will find.
Well, that's not saying a lot, because the general population, there's not a lot.
Yeah. So when we're saying 20% Israelis, we mean Jewish Israelis, because when Arab student that is maybe has an Israeli identity, Israeli nationality will come, most of the time he will want to define himself as Arab Israelis, but a lot of the time he will define himself as Palestinian, because he feels that his nationality is Palestinian, which I totally understand. So, and in our school, it's pretty easy to identify as a Palestinian. So when we say at 20% Israelis, most of them will be Jewish, and we have some more that sometimes it's under the 20% of Israelis and sometimes not. That a lot of not a lot, but some of our students, their parents are Israelis that immigrate to the States or other places during their lives, and their kids are coming to us as a way of connecting to Israel. So we have some, they never been here before, some of them, but they're coming, you know, for the first time to Israel. They have family here sometimes. It's interesting.
Very interesting. So
some of their parents want them to go to the army. Some of them want to go to the army. Very interesting, you know.
You just had your graduation. What was that like?
So it was super interesting. It was, I felt it was very emotional, but you know, I'm not sure that everyone felt it the same way.
Oh, I think when your kid graduates from high school, I think, yes, it will be
everyone feel emotional. So I think that it's more emotional even than in a regular high school, because a lot of the parents came from abroad. We had parents yesterday it was yesterday, so we had parents from Canada, from Guatemala. Both parents came from Guatemala, from Spain, from Italy, from Kenya. Really a lot of interesting places, and it was and some of them came by surprise to the students.
Oh, really? Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, it was super exciting. And not just the parents. We had a lot of alumni, a lot of graduated from the past that came.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like a reunion in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why did the alumni come?
So I assume that, first of all, I will say that it's after 2 years of long, as you know, COVID, Corona period, that nobody can come and go easily. And the travel was very hard. So people feel that they can travel, so they do it more, I think, in a way. Some of them sees that as an opportunity to visit school and to see their friends.
And they're in college now, these kids who are alumni.
Some of them already finished. The Israeli students, a lot of them are in the military service right now. So for boys, it's 3 years. For girls, it's 2 years. Depends on the job that they're doing. Some of them doing 3 years as well. So if they graduated a year or 2 years ago, they're still in their military service. So yeah.
So, okay, so since you brought it up, the foreign students, when they graduate, they'll go do their own thing, but the Israeli kids have to go into the military. And do the kids, when they're at school, take special classes to prepare them for that? To my thinking, the whole having to go into the military, I am so glad we're Americans, just because I don't know what I would do if my son had to go into the military. Can you choose non-combat? I don't know how it works.
So for boys, not really. It depends on your medical profile that you have at the Army. But I would say that it's changed a lot through the years, and today most of the units are some kind of cyber or more of a computer things, or intelligent. So you can find yourself even with a good medical profile at these kinds of unit, especially if you have a good record at high school, if you have a high score, so you can find yourself in these kinds of but no, you cannot choose. And for example, well, I don't know if I don't want to talk about my military service, so never mind.
Well,
but
no, you could. It's so foreign to at least most people that it's very interesting. So
I just would say that I met my husband at the Armor Force. You know what it is,
oh, so there's some good things that happen, huh?
most of the Israelis will tell you nice stories about the army. And I think that this is one, if we're talking about our student, this is one of the things that it's very confusing for our students, because they are coming and all their life they heard actually good stories about the army. Yes, they heard the hard stories as well, and they heard about about wars, and about combat, and about hard things that happened, and people get injured or killed at the army. Of course, they heard it from the day that they know how to read and write. But most of us hearing good stories about the army, how it developed their people's life, how we are managed to do other things. So most of the stories that you will hear will be good stories. And then when they are coming to EMIS, they actually they understand that most of the people look at the army as a bad thing. They didn't realize that before. The international students and the Palestinian students will see it as something wrong to do.
Right.
Or,
correct. That's the impression that we get over here as well.
So, but the Israeli students don't see it that way at first, actually. Then they having, second thoughts about it.
Right.
But it's something that they never crossed their minds before. So it's
interesting.
It's
another point of difference to reconcile and put new perspectives for all sides.
Definitely. We had some Palestinian students in the past that said to their friends in their face, you will go to the army, you will wear a uniform, and I won't talk to you ever again because you will be a soldier. They see the soldier as,
sure,
the enemy, the bad person.
Sure.
And Israelis don't see it that way. They see it as the place that defend their country.
Sure.
In your intro, or in your the thing that you're doing in the introduction, you're talking about your experience in Israel. So we are saying to ourselves, okay, if you don't want to have this experience over and over again, you need somebody, to protect you.
So what's been the reaction of the students after they go through EMIS, all the impact of being with students from all over? What do they tell you?
So I think that I think that most of them will say at the end that it was a very life-changing experience for them. To meet people from all around the world, to be in a boarding school, which is not a usual thing that all teenagers are doing.
Sure.
And it's a very intense experience. And I will say that, most of them during the 2 years have a lot of struggles. You can imagine they are teenagers, so you can imagine that they are having a lot of struggles.
And homesick too, I would imagine.
They homesick.
It's so foreign. I mean, Israel is a great place, but I don't know, if you come from Bolivia, maybe it's, too different or wherever.
First of all, it's a lot of difference. The food is different. The weather is different. The culture is different, of course. Way things are doing in a different way, and they need to get used to it. So this is one thing. The second is that they are living all together. To live in a boarding school can be very nice and very, independent, and you can have a really good social life. But at the end of the day, you don't have privacy. You want to close the door after you, but always you will have somebody there with you.
Right.
And it's very hard in a way. It's very, very hard. And we didn't talk yet about the IB curriculum.
Yes, we're going to get to that. Yeah.
But the IB
we can
curriculum,
do that now, because I was going to ask you about that, because that's a very important part of your curriculum, and it's a strenuous kind of curriculum that they present.
So at the end of the day, all of our students come to this school to have a good diploma that they can use they will use in the future. So they want to go to the best universities. So in order to do that, they need to work very hard. The IB diploma is a very high level diploma, and in order for you to pass it, even you need to focus a lot in your studies, and it's in foreign language for most of them. It's a second language. Most of them didn't study or learn in English before as the major language that they are talking or studying at. So for them is a very stressful time as well. You are in boarding. It's stressful because you're not at home. It's stressful because you need to talk in a foreign language, and it's stressful because the IB curriculum and diploma are very demanding.
So the IB, what does that require of them? Because I know in your, I wasn't sure if IB requires them to do certain things, or it's just EMIS requires them, but it seems
so in the IB
out of the ordinary, more requirements.
So the IB itself is very demanding. So they need to choose 6 subjects from 6 different groups: language, math, sciences, humanities, and so they need to choose 6 subjects.
Right.
And then so they have internal assessment in each subject, and they have finals at the end. So this is a study per se. Then they have, in order to have the diploma, they need to submit an extended essay, an EE, that it's each of them need to choose the subject that they want to write about, and write writing an extended essay, 5,000 words. It's pretty much like a small, not a small paper that you will write to the university. And then they need to take one core course. It's called TOK, Theory of Knowledge, that all the students need to take it in order to have the diploma. On top of all of this, you need to have CAS activity. CAS is Creative Activity Services. And you need to take at least 3 activities in each year in order to have the diploma at the end.
What kind of activities?
So this depends on the school a lot. And because we are a boarding school, and because we are a boarding school away from home, we provide for the students a lot of the activities that they can do. So they have clubs that they create. For example, I don't know, chess club or a music club or stuff like that. Or we give them some clubs. We give them the opportunity for some clubs, like robotics, for example. We have Hebrew club. We have Arabic club. We have poetry club, stuff like that. It really depends. A philosophy club, psychology club. It really depends on the staff member at each year, because a lot of them will do it voluntarily in the afternoon. Give the students the opportunity to expand their horizons in several, subjects. And then they can do volunteer jobs. And a lot of them are doing things that involve in school life. For example, we have a conference that's called Yokopas. This is a conference that brings together Israelis and Palestinians, not just from our school, and students from all around the country and Palestine, that and for 3 days. And our students have a committee that doing most of the program for this convention. So at the end of the day, so this is one example. We have Mission Week, for example. We are exploring the country in different ways, and the students are leading that. We have a lot of student-led initiatives, cultural days, a lot of things that the students want to do and doing during their time at EMIS. And
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to redo my education. This sounds like so terrific. So the kids, after they graduate, if they're not Israeli and going into the army, they go back home, I guess, or travel, or
some of them take a gap year and doing some kind of a volunteering things or programs, or they are traveling around the world, or gap years. Some of them going straight to universities. Not all of them going to universities at home. Some of them will continue after they've been 2 years in Israel, 2-3 years at the States, for example. A lot of them are aiming for the Ivy League. Not all of them are getting accepted, and if so, not all will get the scholarship. But a lot of our students getting that, and a lot of our students having a good university, record after that. Yeah.
And do you have some success stories from former students? What are they doing now?
So the school is ended now. It's 8 year. So we don't have a lot of graduated yet that graduated already from the whole process of university and trying to find new places, but we have some students that are already involved in educational programs, or doing a lot of things with government working, or interns, or having steps in their ways of doing things. I think a lot of them are looking for things that are more in the governmental perspective, doing things, a little bit to change the world in a small way, if you might say.
Well, that is your motto. Can you talk a little bit about that? Change?
The school for change. So I will say that the mission of the school is a very big mission. The mission of the school is using education as a force for peace and sustainability in the Middle East. It's a huge mission, and sometimes people get confused and think that we are here to solve the Israeli Palestinians ourselves. No, this is not the main issue of the school. The main issue of the school is to educate students to use the individual perspective of change and to use their abilities in order to do good things in the world. And I think that what we are trying to do is to change a little bit, or not a little bit, we really try to do it a lot, to change a lot the from how they came to what they will become. Their
perspectives are always, we all come with our own perspective, but particularly blending the Israeli Jewish kids and the Palestinian kids or the Arab kids. Who are these parents who send their kids, Jewish and Palestinian, to be together? Who are these parents? I'm curious.
So first of all, I would say that this is parents that want good education for their kids. So this is the main motto that you will find in all our students. They are looking for a good education. The IB program is a good program, but it's not just that. You're looking at students, most of them is the students and not the parents, it's themselves. The students are very driven. They want to take part in unique program, and they're convincing their parents that this is a good opportunity for them.
Really? So these are like top type students, a lot of them that want to set their own
goals, on journey. I will say even that if I will interview, or not me, the admission depends on the interview. We'll interview a candidate to school, and he will say to me, well, I'm not sure that I want to come, but my parents really want this for me. I will say to him, actually, well, think twice or 10 times before you're coming, because your parents are not going to be the one that will face the challenges.
Right,
you will.
right.
So the parents, of course, I want students that their parents support them, but they should be a very driven student. Otherwise, it won't work. And these students want to come because they believe in what the school is doing. They believe in change. They believe in peace. They believe in diversity. They believe in pluralism. But even if they believe in all these kinds of things, they came with their own perspective of things.
Sure. Seeing is believing. And plus, how about these international students who, they're like stepping into a war, of at least, not that
so
violence
I'm not sure,
here, but
I'm not sure that all of them understand from the beginning exactly what they are going to see here. They understand the conflict. They know that they want to contribute. Most of them know in advance there is some kind of an issue here. But not all of them really realize that all the details. Even the Israeli and the Palestinian students, they know about things, but most of them didn't even met the Israeli didn't even met the Palestinians in their lives before, or the Palestinians didn't met Israelis before.
Yeah, it's so bizarre how they live right next to each other. And many of the peacemakers that I talked to, not until they were adults did they really have conversations. It's something that is hard to understand.
So I think, having this kind of school wasn't my idea. It was Mr. Hadas he's the founder of the school.
Yes.
And he
does he stay involved?
Yes. More, in a way of representative side and giving advice, and contribute a lot to, recruiting students, donation, stuff like that. And we always need help with day-to-day management things. I'm dealing with that. But I think that you can say about EMIS that the main purpose of it is for students to be with each other. At the end of the day, a lot of the first questions that people are asking me, and maybe the students that you will meet will tell you this better than me, but a lot of the people that I will meet will ask, well, how they get along? And I say, well, they get along just fine, and most of their arguments or fighting even won't be about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Most of their argument will be who took the water in the shower, who ended the water in the shower, what you did to me yesterday, you weren't a good friend, or she took my boyfriend, I kissed him. A teenager stuff.
Well,
this will be most
together, humans.
Yeah, they're living So these kinds of things, they are nice to each other. They are good friends. I just exaggerate when I'm saying that, but
it's human. I mean, of course, you've got a bunch of people living together. That stuff.
But everyone that raised teenagers know what they're dealing with, and this will.
I think that's how you end up with at least some of them.
But I will say that there are very political awareness in our school. A lot of political awareness in our school, and they're very aware of what is going on. And on top of there being a regular teenagers, they're dealing with a lot of these kinds of topics, and the diversity itself bring a lot of issues. There are cultural gaps that will always be cultural gaps, and I think this is something that they are dealing with, either the Israelis or the Palestinians, but not just all of them.
Well, there's a difference in economics and all kinds of things that.
But a Chinese student born and raised in a really different way from an American student. The gap that I don't want to bridge the gap. I don't want to put them in the same place. I want them to recognize there is a gap, that we need to understand each other, although there is a gap. I don't want them to say, at the end of these 2 years, we won't have a gap between each other. No, we still have a gap in culture. I want them to embrace their culture. I don't want them to erase it.
Sure, of course. Where do the teachers come from?
So, as I said before, most of them are Israelis. Some of them are Israelis like me, born and raised in Israel. My parents in Israel, born in Israel. So I'm pure Israeli. But some of our teachers are immigrants, came to Israel in some point of their life. As you might know, Jewish people can immigrate to Israel quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
This is the law in Israel, so they immigrate in some kind of process that you are doing in order to come to Israel. Some of them are spouses of Israelis or Israeli citizens, so and they are foreigners. They become an Israeli citizens, but they are foreigners to begin with. And we have few teachers that are on an international contract, and they are coming for 2-3 years, and you know, they have the IB experience. They are with us for a while, and then they're moving along to their next.
So let's talk about the Leon Charney Resolution Center. What is that all about?
So the Leon Charney Resolution Center is actually an NGO that established by his wife. Leon Charney passed away, I think 2000, and I'm not sure, so I won't say. But his wife Tzili wanted his name to remain, and he was very active in the process, the peace process, Oslo and other peace process that were here in the 19th and then in the beginning of 2000s. And his wife Tzili founded an organization that want to help other places with dealing with I would say a peace not processes, but you know, like EMIS, places like EMIS that deal with the conflict and wanted to solve the conflict.
What are the kids doing in this slide? What are they?
So one of the activities that the Charney Center are doing with us, and they are giving us a lot of support in so many things, but one of the things is the peace simulation day, when peace simulation day. What they are doing is they're divided to groups. One of the group is representing the Israelis, one representing the Palestinians, and not necessarily Israelis and Palestinians are doing their roles. And they're dealing with topics that giving them in advance and trying to solve them. Like, for example, what will you do with Jerusalem in a peace agreement? What will you do with water in a peace agreement? What will you do? How you will solve refugees returns? How you will solve so many other things. So this is what they're doing for a day. They have facilitators that come from the outside, and at the end of the day, they're representing their solution to the situation.
Oh, that's also what they're here.
Yeah, this is the end of the process, actually.
Awesome.
And you can see in the middle, Tzili. She is the the founder of the center, of the resolution center.
So they over the, I believe it's over the course of a couple days, they give them a problem to solve, essentially.
We give them a lot of information at first, a lot of lectures or workshops that give them the data that they need and the information that they need. and some of them are doing their own research. And then it's not really a problem, it's more of topic, you would say. The topic will be, for example, Jerusalem. Okay, so now we are going to deal with trying to solve the problem, but as you know, nobody wants to compromise about Jerusalem. So what would you suggest in order to compromise? This will be more or less the how we deal with that. And you have facilitators. So when they're, for example, students can suggest things that for sure won't be a good solution in reality. So the facilitator will say something like, well, do you think that the other side will agree with that? What do you think will be the reaction? What do you think will be how the Knesset, for example, will deal with it, or how the Palestinian side will deal with that? So these kinds of things.
So the school itself, I had to note, started in 2014, and it started in September, just after, like, our trip was in July, and it was during the 50-day war that changed my life. But how in the world were they able to start your school, with the intention of, Israelis and Palestinians getting along in the middle of a war? What was that like?
I think that it was more difficult, in my perspective, it's more difficult, not the Israelis and the Palestinians, for international students coming from, I don't know where, to a war zone. This is, I think, even more complicated. I don't really know.
You weren't there. Yeah, but
it was what they are describing. It's like a magic. At the end of the day, most of the students came. How?
Yeah.
I really don't understand, actually. I will say that
I was there and I didn't understand what I was doing there. So I will tell you that of all the people that I was touring with, we were going from there to France. And I kept saying, a couple more days on the Champs-Élysées would not be bad. Why are we here running to bomb shelters? And but everybody else wanted to stay. And ultimately, for me, it was meant to be. This has changed my whole life, and this is what I've done the last 8 years. But it was the most frightening experience, of course, of my life. And there's nothing like being in a bomb shelter and missiles exploding, and I don't care if they're miles away and Iron Dome is blowing up the missiles in the middle of the sky. You still feel the percussion on your skin when you're in the bomb shelter. You feel that, and thank God you're not feeling the impact, because it would have been different. But that is extremely, extremely frightening. And
so I will say two things about it. First of all, I will say that an Israeli person, I feel that I live a pretty normal life here in Israel, and from time to time we are going to the shelters, and
I know.
And when we are hearing,
that's Israelis. I know Israelis. This is
we're not
part of their life,
and it's not just part of our life. You will have a siren here in Tel Aviv, and then 5 minutes later you will see everyone coming back to the cafe and doing their things. Like, it's not really this much of a big deal for us. I don't know why.
I know when you're in the shelter.
I just want to say,
they say wait 10 minutes so the shrapnel from the missiles can fall to the ground,
and then
and a businessman, 2 seconds later, they don't wait 10 minutes, they just go. And I would say, why are they leaving already? Well, he's got something to do. It's like
So
Yes.
I will say that this is Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, but in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, in the what we call the
Like-
surrounding of Gaza,
like
it's
Sederot and
yeah, it's not the same. So I want to say that because
okay.
it sounds like it's a normal thing, but it's not really. And there, it's really a dangerous place to be,
Right.
and it's not a really good situation to be at.
Yeah. Well, like
So-
Sederot, like they're a mile from Gaza, and
Yeah,
Sederot.
so this is one thing that for Israelis it's more of a reality, but I will say a second thing, that last May we have the same. We have
Well, now it's gotten a little bit rough.
yeah, but now it's a terror attack. It's different in the way of how you feel, the personal feeling. But
Yeah, the missiles haven't a little bit, not a lot.
It's rough time as well. But last May, after a year of Corona, that we were, in a lockdown after lockdown after lockdown for students. At the end of the year, in May, we had a missiles attack, and in this missile attack, I just will say that we ran all together to the shelters in the middle of finals. And we had IB finals, so the IB was kind enough with us to say, okay, the student can choose either they are taking the exams or they can go to the predicted grade route. But it was, this was the situation, and it was very unpleasant situation. And but at the end of the day, all of our students that supposed to came to 12th grade came. So you are asking why and how? I don't know. It's kind of a magic.
Wow. Do you do special activities to get the Arab and the Israeli kids to interact with one another?
So I think that you should ask more of that to the students that you will interview. They are saying that we are not doing enough. So this is why they have their initiative now it's not that it's not enough what we are doing in being together, but they're saying that they want to do more of talks, like how do you talk to each other?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the conflict in a civil way.
Sure, to be more proactive.
This is now their initiative, and this is why I thought it will be a good idea for you to interview them.
Yeah, just to let people know, I mentioned we're doing this in part 1 and part 2. Next week, we're going to have the honor of speaking with the students as well. And I'm very excited to hear, how they feel about, living together and learning together and what this all means to them. So the fact, I guess because you all speak English, I was thinking of the fact that Israelis speak Hebrew, Palestinians speak Arabic, and that, that in Israel of itself causes problems, but I guess because everybody there is speaking English, that's how you get around the language.
I will say that a lot of the Arab students that we have know some kind of Hebrew in different ways, and not a lot of our Israelis knows Arabic. So this is a really good point, actually. Yeah, the Israeli population are not speaking enough Arabic.
In fact, I've had different peace organizations. That's something that they do. That's one of the ways they do it, is by teaching the Israeli Jewish kids Arabic. And
I think it's super important. I'm very sorry for myself that I'm not speaking Arabic. And I learned for, I think 5 or 6 years at school Arabic, but it wasn't worth anything.
Well, I have to say, as of yesterday, I don't know, what is this called? My son introduced me to an app on my phone that you could do for, Duolingo. And you can do it for 5 minutes a day or whatever. So I chose Hebrew. So, you know, where there's a will, there's a way.
So what you're saying that at 10 p.m. at night, I could have spoken Hebrew the entire time, and then you still interviewed me in English.
No. Like I said, I started yesterday. That's not gonna work too well.
Not that easy.
So, how has COVID impacted all of this?
Well, it had a huge impact on us. At first, at March 2020, I wasn't the principal yet, but we closed the school actually, not in March, but in April, more or less. And all the students went home immediately. And
Wow.
then it was really a hard time to bring everyone back. It was really hard time to get them a visa from the Israeli, ministries. So it took us time, but we did it. You know that sometimes you say about the Israeli bureaucracy that it's the worst. So in this case, it was actually we had a lot of help from so many places, and then at the end of the day, we managed to bring all the students. So it took us time. And the Chinese, it took them a long time to come. The Vietnamese came one day, and they just came to school. We didn't know in advance that they will have flights. So it was a really hard time, but the hardest was to maintain the school during the pandemic before the vaccines. I will remind that before the vaccines, you will have, if one student got sick, you needed to quarantine the whole people that were around him. So we had quarantine after lockdown, and then we had small quarantine.
You're breaking up.
Large quarantine. It was really hard.
So I'm always curious, how does your family feel, you're Jewish, about your life having so much involvement regarding the conflict and working with Arab and Palestinian students and so on?
I think they like it.
They like it?
I'm coming from a very liberal house, so I think that they know me already to understand that this is what I'm doing. Like I did before that, I worked at the Marriage Party for a long time, and I was involved in the Rabin Center in the educational department there, and
which is, I mean, people over here would know what that is.
The Rabin Center is a place called after Yitzhak Rabin that was murdered, the prime minister that murdered here.
Rabin. Yeah. Okay.
Rabin.
Okay. Got it. So that's what we're used to hearing. I'm used to hearing that's how it's pronounced. So okay, got it. So when did you get involved with
that's fine. That's fine. I think that in EMIS 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So how this was a job opportunity, or
yeah,
had you heard
actually,
about
it was
it
a job
before?
opportunity. No, I heard about it because EMIS is a part of Akfar Yarok. Akfar Yarok is a youth village that EMIS is a part of, and I worked in education there, and I was a pedagogical coordinator there and a civic teacher there for a long time, and it was a job opportunity. The former principal here at EMIS left, and they looked for another principal, and I I suggested myself to the job, to the administration, and there was a process, and after that I got the job.
Did you have I mean, anybody living in Israel, I would imagine, is influenced by the conflict, but were you into the peace side of it beforehand, or any involvement with the two sides before working at the school?
So yes, as I said before, I worked at the Meretz Party, which is a left-wing party.
Yeah, okay, so people over here, we don't know what that is.
I was so I was assistant for a Knesset member in a left-wing party, and most of my job was involved in some kind of dealing with topics regarding the conflict in this way or another. Politics here involve a lot of things that involve the conflict, not just, but a lot of it. And originally, from in the path that I took in the educational part, I'm a civics teacher. So a lot of what I'm doing there is, or did there, was to introduce to the students parts of the conflict and dealing with that. So yeah, most of my life was around that in some ways.
Cool. So for your last question, are there any new classes or directions that you'd like to provide for the students on campus in the future?
So what we're doing now, we built a new program that's called Mission Class, which is not just dealing with the mission in big events, but in day-to-day things that we are doing on campus. And you talked a lot about the mission part, the part of the mission of the peace, because this is your agenda in your
right.
Yeah, but we're dealing a lot with the sustainability part. We think it's combined together, the peace and the sustainability, and talking about sustainability's issue in the side of how we will live together on the same land, in the same surface, is a part of being in a joint community. So I think that our mission class is one of the things. Next year it will be much. It will take much part in our curriculum.
Yeah, I've definitely interviewed folks like EcoPeace and citizen diplomacy initiatives, and different people who Rabbi Yonatan Nero, who's with the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development, and so on. So definitely.
Do you know about Arava Institute?
Yeah, I've interviewed them as well. So so yeah, so sustainability definitely is often used and has peace ramifications as well. Thanks so much for your time today, Hadas. It's great to hear about how a high school is helping to train the next peacemakers for the world. I'm very excited that next week we'll be doing something very special. We've talked today about EMIS and Sounds very interesting. And next time, we'll actually be speaking with two of EMIS's 11th grade students and get their perspective on what it's like to attend such an inspiring school. One's an Israeli and one's a Palestinian student. And as Hadas referred to, they even started they're starting a new initiative that they'll be talking about. As our audience can see by our programming at Peace with Penny, that many people are working very hard to improve the lives of Jewish, Arab, Palestinian people in the Middle East and others around the world, promoting cooperation. And Peace with Penny strives to get the word out that there is hope for peace in the region. Next week, would love for you to join us again. We hope that the situation will calm down in Israel and that there will be better news for the people of Ukraine and Russia. For now, we'll leave you as we pray that everyone will someday live in peace, shalom, and salam.